Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have several here under consent agenda. Item 3, Commissioners' warrants. We had add-on warrants this morning of $2,211.76, 2211.76. And then other items for the Commissioners' agenda. Request to appoint 2 commissioners to the Murray County Joint Ditch 21 and Joint Ditch 7. To add 2 commissioners to that.
Okay.
And also to appoint 2 commissioners to the primary election canvassing board. And the canvass will occur Thursday at 10 a.m. in the commissioners' room.
Okay.
Those are my add-ons, Mr. Chairman.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve the consent agenda. Approve the minutes from 7/26/22. Approve the auditor warrants of 7/29, 5/8, and 5/9 of 22. Approve the commissioner warrants plus the add-ons of 22/11/76. Approve the hospital warrants of $714.37, and approve the July treasurer's report.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval. I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Nick?
Good morning.
Morning.
Right, first up for me today is project updates. The first update I have is R&G Construction with 2021 box culvert contract number 4. They're working on the final pipe now. I wasn't here yesterday, but that might even be done. So it's that close. It'll be this week. So, next update I have is the 2021 bridges down by Island. They poured the deck on County Road 20 heading to the park about a week and a half ago. And then they are pouring the deck for the bridge on County Road 2 this morning. They're doing that actually right now. So. And I think that's the last update I have for right now. Next item I have, in regard to our highway department shop. We need some rather extensive roof repairs out there. Wayne and I have been working on this for a while now. Also the heating system is pretty poor in there, and we got, the walls need some work too. I don't know, that might need new steel on the outside, but the building needs quite a bit of work. I talked with the Road and Bridge Committee, and before we dive into all that, we're gonna have like a structural company that's familiar with these things check the building out, make sure we're approaching this the right way, make sure that we're not dumping a bunch of money in a manner we shouldn't be there. So just someone who knows more about older steel structures like that is going to take a look at it and write up a report with some recommendations on how to go about the repairs we need. And actually, they're supposed to be there in about an hour and a half. So
Sounds good.
So just so you know, there'll be something coming on that front. So. Next up, we got a request for a water and sediment control basin in the northeast corner quarter of section 34 in Gray Township. What they want to do is make this basin, I think it helps with erosion in the field, but it would back up water into our right of way and then upstream onto the neighbor's property. I talked with Kyle about this, and it would take some like flooding easements, and I don't know if we want to get into the habit of allowing that in our road ditches. You know, we generally put work into making sure they drain well and stay dry, and Kyle thought we'd need an easement to allow it in our right of way, and then an easement from the upstream stream neighbor who may or may not want to allow it. But after talking with Kyle, I think we probably want to say no to this. But I mean, if that's something that you feel strongly about that we should allow, I can.
Nick, where did the request come from? From the landowner or from the township?
Yes, from the landowner. Yep. Yep. So.
Does he have any other options other than backing it up into the
Yes.
ditch? He does.
Yes. From my understanding after talking with Kyle, there are more options, but this would be the minimally invasive to his farming operation. He's got a seeded waterway now, but this basin, I think, would allow him to farm through that because it'd hold the water, and then the tile would dump it out into a different waterway. So I'm sure it'd be more convenient for his operation, but
It could pose some problems for us down the road.
yeah,
Or
it's.
for neighbors.
For
This one seems fairly harmless or not that bad to us, but I'm afraid of setting a precedent for what we'd be expected to do later. Yeah, so I don't know. After talking with Kyle, we think that it's probably best to not allow that. But if that's something you want to know more about, I can get more info. But
I'm very comfortable with
Yeah.
your approach on this. You coordinated with Kyle, and I agree with you. Set a precedent. It's obviously it's been dry. Who knows what a wet year would be? So no, I think you're on the right track.
okay, well, I'll just reply to him that we don't want to get into that. So
Sounds good.
thank you. All right. Next up would be the surplus equipment that we've talked about a couple times over the last few months. We did receive bids on 2 items. The steel wheel roller, we received 2 bids. One's from the city of Pipestone for $250. Another was from the city of Edgerton for $1. And then we received a bid on one of the 500-gallon fuel tanks. That bid is from the city of Edgerton. They bid $499 on that. So I'm happy with both of those bids. I think I'd recommend selling to the high bidder on both of those items. I'd also like permission to kind of redo the same thing, but open it up to the general public. We could advertise it on our website. We could throw it in the paper, and then take bids from the general public on the remaining items. I think that would be a better use of our time, I guess, than trying to put all these things on that state website, because that takes a lot of time. And as I found out last time, there's a lot of tire kickers out there that are just looking to kill time, and I don't think really interested. But it takes a lot of time to answer those, take pictures of this and that, kind of irrelevant details, but so I would recommend doing the same thing, but opening it up to the public around here first, and then see what we end up with after that, and decide what we want to do on any remaining items.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we sell the 2 items to the highest bidder.
Okay,
Second that.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we'll entertain a motion probably to just open it up to the public on the rest of it.
You need a motion for that?
I
Never
think
hurts,
we
right?
Probably do. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, never hurts.
Make a motion, we open it up to the public for the rest of it.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay. I'll put together some type of bid for him, and then we'll get it posted on our website, and probably throw something in the paper, and then people can submit sealed bids to me, and then I'll probably bring them back to the board and at a future meeting. And yeah, I don't know what date that would be, but I'll be back with that then. So
And the fuel tank, they only wanted the one, so we still have one to go yet.
correct. Yeah, I'll let them pick whatever one of the two they want. I think they're the same, but
Okay, getting back to the motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
all right. Next up, I have some maintenance updates. I don't know if I need a motion or anything on this, but we would like to prepay our propane to get a little bit better rate this year. So if that's okay, I think we'll go ahead and do that. We save a little bit of money doing that. So okay.
Still have summer fill price.
Yes, that, and then I can't remember what I think we save at least 10 cents a gallon. Paying ahead too. There's also like a paying half down option, but I mean we've got the money, and it looks like we get the cheapest per gallon by just
Contract for the whole winter. Yep.
yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that's gonna be our cheapest route, so that's what I'd like to do with that. So. Also under maintenance items, we began spraying right of ways. We've got most of our shoulder mowing completed. I think the only thing left is the Edgerton area. And then we've been doing some ditch cleaning as well. So along with our normal maintenance graveling. So, outside of that, that's all I have for right now. Anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions from the board?
I don't know.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Yeah. So I'll go check on that deck pour now, and then I'll be back. Try to be back for that 10 o'clock meeting on the trail resolution, and then I have my budget session later this morning that I'll be here for as well. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Luke? Morning, Luke.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate your time this morning. I have an informational update from Southwestern Mental Health Center. For those that don't know, my name is Luke Como. I'm the Executive Director. Today, I will bring forth to you some information regarding our past and then the future. And so I will kind of make a designation as I switch gears there. The packet I've presented in front of you today does give some information in regards to our past and what leads us up to today. I know roughly about a year ago I was here and talked to you about some of the financial struggles and different challenges that the agency was facing. And I'd like to just kind of walk with you through today in regards to the packet I've provided for you. And then at any time, please feel free to interrupt me and ask questions if you need. So looking at the first page, I have a brief history of our income loss statement from 1999 onward. And looking throughout that duration of time, you can clearly see it's been a little bit of a roller coaster of a ride. Roughly around 2012 or so, where we reached our peak of profit, roughly $614,000. Unfortunately, we saw a decline over the next few years, upwards till around 2016, 2017, where we saw a significant decrease downward. That is, there's a couple reasons for that, actually quite a few, but I want you to kind of, in that 2016, 2017 era, I want you to kind of put the shall and may time frame in there, and I will denote what that is here in just a little bit. That's a legislative change in regards to billing reimbursement. So the shall may change happened around that time. And also differences in regards to deductibles changed considerably in our nation around 2015. So since around 2017, we've seen, unfortunately, a decline in revenue, leading to us to have a loss since roughly 2018. I'll dive into that just a little bit more. So if we flip to the next page, you'll see our annual revenue since roughly 2010. We've seen a 46% increase in annual revenue over those years to the peak of 2020. You'll see from 2010 to 2015, you saw pretty consistent growth. You see roughly 5.3 million going up to 6.7 million. But you'll see around 2016, you really see that start to plateau. But you will see in other slides here in a little bit that our output was actually increasing as well during that time. So you should have seen an increase in revenue as we increased our output from 2016, but you don't see that. And one of the reasons, and one of many reasons that we see that, is the changes in insurance rates. So going to the bottom of that page, you will see that the average insurance rate adjustment per year from 2010 to 2021 was 0 to 2% increase. And average insurance deductibles went up 212% since 2008. So in the private carrier side of things, looking at 2015, the average deductible in our nation was around $250 to $500 around that time frame. And as we know today, they're upwards in the $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 range. When we look at individuals having to meet their deductible before we can bill insurance, certainly that is a much more financial burden on the individual to provide those finances. So the population that we serve sometimes really struggles with being able to provide those services, so they didn't have the finances to be able to provide that and be able to hit our deductible. Going back to the shall and may conversation that I had previously, there was a state legislative change that the state for our PMAP insurances, the language was shall be at the Medicaid rate, and then there was a change in the legislature that said may, and that one wordage change was a cataclysmic change in regards to they didn't have to match that rate. In a further slide, you will see the information in regards to the changes in regards to that. Looking at the next page there, the Southwest Mental Health Center expenses per year, you will see consistent growth there from roughly 2010 to 2016, matching the output of the organization. But it started to slow down in regards to expenses by 2018 and 19, as we were realizing that we were beginning to lose significant amount of funding and going into the red as an organization. So we were doing the best we can to slow down expenses during that time frame. Obviously, the pandemic hit and the downward slide of the organization since 2020 in regards to financially. You can see that middle box there, it says the percentage increase from 2010 to 2020 in regards to expenses was roughly 62%. And that's really throttling back those last few years. So certainly a significant growth in expenses over that time frame versus the last slide, which was 46% in revenue. Looking at the next page, just compares those both together. You see that you had a positive trend upward to around 2017, where our expenses were beneath our revenue, but unfortunately they flipped right around 2017, and unfortunately we're not able to flip that up till this point since. Looking at the next page, let's just kind of take a deep dive into 2021, kind of give you an example of what we see on a daily basis. Hopefully this is a year time frame. So we invoiced 8.17 million and we received total 6.5 million. That's shaking the couches out. That's all the dimes and quarters, everything we can find. It's all county contracts. It's everything that came into the agency was roughly 6.5 million. So you see a roughly 20% decrease in regards to what you total invoiced. Total clients we served was 3,127, and we had over almost 43,000 scheduled appointments. Something that may come as a surprise to you is our cancel no-show rate is roughly 21%, and which falls within community mental health centers. The average within the state of Minnesota for community mental health centers is around 25% that people will no-show or cancel. And so for the year, we were down a little bit under that, but certainly we've still fallen. We have some months that are 26, 27, 28%. Get a lot of questions on how do we make that to a lesser effect, or how do we reduce that? We certainly have efforts. People get text messages in regards to their meetings and get phone call reminders. But it does fall within the breadth of the population that we serve, struggle with making appointments and following through. And so we are certainly not a misnomer in regards to the overall consistent pattern we see within the state. If you look at that very bottom graph, 2021 approximate insurance ratio, roughly 60-40. So our PMAPs are 60% of what we do and 40% is commercial. I will reference this graph in regards to some of our budget issues here in just a little bit. So just remember 60-40 in regards to our PMAP versus MA. Going to the next slide, so our contract with Southwest Health and Human Services, which we're very thankful for the partnership that we've had and hopefully continue to have with them. This is just some information in regards to our contract amounts throughout the years, roughly going back to 2010 at $284,000 roughly, and then the increases we've seen throughout the years. And certainly there were some increases and there were some years of zero, but we've ended at roughly $350,000 and so dollars for our contract amount here in 2022. And that percentage increases went up 23.3%.
Is that contract for a certain amount of visits or?
Sir, an interesting anomaly part of that contract, and it's not unique to Southwest Health and Human Service contract, it's actually a part of all three of our contracts, was there's wordage in it that says 5,000 hours. And I've done some research on that, and really it was something that was put in many years ago. It was never really followed in regards to that we would serve up to 5,000 hours. And so, good segue. If you look at the next slide, in the next paper, you will notice that the contract was written, it said up to 5,000 hours in 2010, and then you'll see the hours increase as we did through 2019. And one of the things that was starting to work against us is certainly by 2016, but by the more that we did, it didn't help us out at all. The more we did, the more we lost. And so, hindsight's 2020, and the point of today is just good information, just talk through what we can do and learn from the past. Certainly as we increase services, we probably could look back and said, maybe we need to renegotiate contract. I don't know. There's a lot of things we certainly could have done differently to maybe mitigate some of the losses, but going to your point, the contract did say 5,000 hours. Then does say that.
Yeah, when you're taking a loss, you don't make it up on volume.
Right. So the next page, going back to our 60-40 split within the agency, and also going to that may shall change that happened within the organization in regards to the state legislature. So I highlighted the Minnesota Medicaid. So we billed from May 1st to April 31st, looking at that time frame, $207,000, and we received $184. So you see a 10% loss within that billable amount. That's what all of their PMAPs were held to up until that legislative change. So certainly you guys are in the Prime West area, and they have certainly held the closest to that. Very thankful for that. So we billed 371 and received 326, which is a 12% loss in regards to that insurer. So very thankful for what Prime West is able to offer for us. But we look at some of our more heavier billing sources, like at Blue Plus, $899,000. We only received $697 for a 22.53% loss. And another big hitter would be Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, $384 we billed but received $229. And if a person had secondary insurance, that's where it says secondary, then we were able to bill $16,000 of the loss. But total with that, we had a 35.95% loss across the board. So these would be kind of our prime. It's not all, but it's kind of our major insurance carriers that we do bill to. And what we've seen is a consistent decrease in many areas of that in regards to the receivable funds from billing. So going to the struggles within the agency, here's the heart of what we do as regards to our billable services with insurances. Any questions up until this point?
Luke, you mentioned the Prime West.
Yep.
Pipestone County, as you all know, is Prime West. Rock County is not Prime West, so you don't see the same income generated there because most of that is Blue Cross, I imagine.
That is correct.
There, so there's a stark difference there.
Correct. Yes, but Prime West would be our only one here in Pipestone that we serve, and so we definitely see a difference across our other 4 counties that we do serve, certainly. So then looking to the future and looking to 2023 is the final 2 pages of the packet I proposed for you. The board of directors, looking at our consistent losses for the last few years, wants to create a different trajectory and make sure that the agency is sustainable moving forward. The greatest component of that is us getting what we call it was a federal designation of being a certified community behavioral health center. It's an acronym known as the CCBHC. Your local neighbor Western Mental Health Center has received that designation roughly 4 years ago or so. Well, Woodland Center has received that this year up in Wilmer. So there are 33 community mental health centers in the state of Minnesota. There's roughly 11 that have received that designation. It is a thing across the nation to push mental health centers to be able to get this accreditation and certification. The benefit is that those that are on medical assistance, so going back to that 60-40, if everybody said, remember that graph, that 60%, they pay a higher rate if you have a CCBHC certification. The other 40%, your commercial payers, there's no benefit there. But on the commercial side of things, or on the private Medicaid portion and the prepaid medical assistance programs, they pay a higher rate. Now, why do they do that? Because under the CCBHC model, you have a more comprehensive care plan for an individual. It's the agency looks at the individual differently, how they serve them, which is a great thing, and looks at more of the life course of the individual and all the different services they're in. They could be in 3 or 4 different services. How do we wrap up 3 and 4 services that they're in and not silo them, but put that work plan together to make sure that they're receiving the services comprehensively. In doing so is certainly a systematic change within an organization. We've been on a good path over the last few years to get to that. There are 2 ways to achieve that accreditation. One is through the federal government, going through SAMHSA and applying for a grant through them. Another is going through your local state. Here's your difference. If you go through the federal government, you're asking them to upfront and pay the grant. They'll give you the $1 million a year for roughly 4 years to get there. If you go through the state, you're saying, I have the funds to do it. You're going to upfront it all on your own to be able to do it. Western did it through SAMHSA. Woodlands did it on their own. There's pros, cons. It's just whatever the agency is able to do. For us as an agency, we have applied for SAMHSA grant. We will find out this fall if we achieve that. We're certainly hopeful. It's very competitive, but hopefully with this year, SAMHSA received a lot more funding from the American Rescue Fund, so they were able to double the amount of awards that they will give out throughout the nation. But it doesn't give up hope if we don't get that, because we can go through the state certification as well. But in doing so, it really is a comprehensive change to the organization. When we look at the consistent years of loss, unfortunately, the insurance revenue is where it is, and we have to get to a point of getting back to solvency in regards to a balanced budget line. And unfortunately, it's the increased costs across the board. So in looking at our contracts with our counties, going to right at the very top there, it says Southwest Health and Human Services, Nobles County, and Des Moines Valley. Please note that some of the previous contracts were based on population size. That was roughly 10 to 15 years ago why the contracts were different in price. It was based on population. In looking and also working with my board in regards to what we should propose for the future, one of the things that we do know is roughly the population of Rock and Pipestone is very much equivalent to what Nobles is, which is going to be more equivalent to which Des Moines Valley is. So we're within a breadth of, yes, they're within a certain percentage range that they're almost all the same. But it really then goes down to acuity. You could also have counties that have individuals who utilize our services more or less. And so really to be in the partnership of the catchment area would be to an equal contract with all 3 health and human service agencies. So the increase, and obviously it is a very significant increase to $1,050,000, sets the agency in the direct path to become a CCBHC and also provide services and be able to continue in the black moving forward. So that is the budget proposal that was brought to the board this year that they approved to move forward with to garner the funds that we need to build the agency to where it needs to be. When I say build the agency, what does that mean? Well, obviously, I was here a year ago talking about individuals that have left mental health and moved on to different things. It's full recruitment. It's getting on back to the amount of individuals that we need as an agency to provide the services we need for our counties, and also to help supplement to the losses that we're seeing in the loss of revenue over with insurances. Once we would receive the CCBHC status, we certainly would go back and look at our budget, so like 2024 in regards to what changes that made in regards to the PMAP services, and obviously be able to readjust from there. Now I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a little bit of a different direction. So regarding Pipestone, we really dig into the nuts and bolts. What's different about Pipestone versus the other 4 counties is really your placement and your neighboring with Western, what you're able to provide with your county in-house versus what we were able to provide through Southwestern Mental Health Center. Through a lot of conversations and a lot of different ideas that have been thrown out, certainly I will lead with, I certainly would hope and expect your support if this would be something that you'd want to do, that Southwestern Mental Health Center would move forward and receive the finances needed to provide services for your county. But if that is not the best option for your county, certainly we understand and respect that. And also look at, one of the key components is Southwestern Mental Health Center is not in competition with other people. We're here to provide a service to those in need. And there are individuals who have started up private practices and different things, and we think that's fantastic, and we wish them the best. The problem with that is the more individuals that go and have choices and move out, the natural thing is those that are on a commercial payer, or maybe those that have health insurance that pay to a better, if they leave, good for them. And we're full support of a capitalistic environment, but for a community mental health center, that lessens the amount of revenue that's coming into us. So typically those that are seeking our services don't have the funds to be able to do it, which makes it harder for us to be able to financially be solvent. So looking at Pipestone, I don't have a certain plan for you here today, but I also think it's on the table that you look at what is best for your county. And what that could be is that we look at partnering together with everybody who would be interested in providing services for your county. It could be myself, CEO of Western, Sarah Ackerman, myself, Southwestern Human Services, Director Beth Wilms, any of those private entities that look at what you could be able to provide for your county and sitting down and carving out what is the needs within your county to be able to provide services. I certainly don't have numbers today in regards to this service costs this and this service costs this, but it's probably at a good point where I would certainly be open to the conversation of what is best for Pipestone and what you guys think the direction would be.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Beth Wilms wasn't able to be with us today. She's got two of her staff members here. And you ladies would be in a much better position to ask pertinent questions than I would be. Is there anything that you could add to this conversation that you'd like to come forward with?
Well, I think that we could add that, we've been meeting with Luke for a couple of years and understanding financial burdens that they're experiencing.
Could we have you come up, please? Need to get you on the record.
Come on up, Stacy. We'll get you another chair.
Cindy Nelson, Southwest Health and Human Services. Yeah, so this isn't a secret. We've been meeting for a long time and certainly understand what's happening. I think that we have been having some conversations just to prepare for the fact that maybe services will continue to decline in Pipestone County, and so we have had some conversations with some other providers to see what kind of services they could provide in the community. Hoping to continue to receive services through Southwest Mental Health Center, but still planning for the what ifs.
How
A couple weeks ago, Luke, that we met and had lunch, and we kind of talked through the scenario of an a la carte for Pipestone, using Western, using some other services that are in the county, and using Southwest Mental Health. Just trying to do what's best for the people of Pipestone County. And we're infringed upon on the east side by Western, north side by Western, and the south side is, Rock, and then we got South Dakota too on the other side. But I just think when we talked about that made a lot of sense doing it a la carte, using all that we can to make it work for the people of the county.
We realize the last 2 years have been difficult for everyone. How much more of a challenge has it been for you to be able to provide services for our residents here in Pipestone County without having a physical presence here in the city of Pipestone from Southwest Mental?
I think for some, they've been able to maximize telehealth or the Zoom and the phone, and for their particular situations, it's been effective. I've also heard from my staff that it's difficult for those who want to see someone face to face. Really, two parts to that. From of all, we don't have a location here in the county, but also transportation to get from here down to Laverne, where there is a physical location. And those are two things that have made it difficult for that population that really wants to see someone face to face.
And obviously with that type of mental health care, face-to-face is critical.
Yes, for those that really want it, it is, it's difficult for some to just get to the appointment, but then when it's that far away,
That's right. It could be
is a
across
little
the
bit more
street,
difficult.
and it would still be difficult for them to
Yes.
go there because of all of the anxiety and so forth that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Then also to compound this even more, that's normal working hours. Then, of course, we know we have the situation, especially with law enforcement, with crisis intervention. And we know that's a huge, huge challenge for us and very important, so. So I guess my point then is that we certainly are reeling from the effects of the closing of the Pipestone office. And looking, I guess, for what you've got for suggestions of how we can replace that service for our citizens.
Yeah, so going to the true brass tacks of the issue is when you look at the employment field that's out there, the reality is it is not as deep as we wish it was. And so going back to the fact that, there are individuals who went into private practice or do what they need to do for employment, the reality is we don't have other individuals seeking to work for us and work in the Pipestone region. The brass tacks is I've got to rob Peter to pay Paul type of thing. I'm hoping those individuals who were into private practice would they want to come back and seek us out for employment or what have you. So we're going to do the circle thing of who people are working for because there's just not the influx of workers coming into this region. That's the heart of the issue. So when we look at, the goal is to get a physical presence back in all counties, but the reality of that specifically for Pipestone is probably some type of a partnership. I'm going to make up a fictitious number, but if there's only 10 clinicians in all of Pipestone, we're just, were they employed through? And if people need a physical presence, that's where if someone says, hey, I need to work for this agency that's not ours, or they do private practice, maybe they're the ones that see the people who are in person, and then we were able to provide the telehealth for those that works for that. To say, well, it's just, if we pushed all other options off the table and so the Southwest Mental Health Center had to provide an in-person physical place in Pipestone, the challenge of that is number one, finding the people. How am I going to find the people to be able to do it? I'm not saying it's impossible, but, money compensation is one aspect of it. Hours, what you're asking them to do and provide is another. And under community mental health center rules, we have to provide to a certain degree, which for some individuals that works and for some individuals it does not. We have to provide services 8 to 5, and starting in January 1st of next year, we'll do crisis hours and things like that. There's a portion of the population that says, I want to do that. So our pool of people that we're looking for is very few. So going to your point of how to get physical presence back, this is the challenge that we have. Is I think it looks at more of a partnership, being able to bring that back rather than one entity.
Do I understand correctly that some of the private providers that are here in the community used to be employees of yours?
I assume so. Yeah, I do not have dialogue with them.
Luke?
I have a number of questions. Do the private providers take MA cases?
I am not for sure what they do or take.
Or is it like finding a dentist up until Caring Hands opened? That, is it a situation where they basically can take a few, but they don't take very many
Right.
or do you know for sure one way or another?
I would say that some of them do take a certain number of MA clients, yes, but not their whole caseload.
But it'd be limited, most
might be.
likely.
Yeah.
Does Southwest Mental Health have reserve funds? I'm assuming you've been running at a loss for a number of years. You must have some reserves to tap into.
We do.
Okay, and what do those amount to and where did they come from?
We're currently right around 4 million. In regards of where they came from would predate me. I don't know what I can have walked into the organization.
I mean, like, who's the owner of those reserves? The county's involved or?
It would be the 501c3, it'd be the board of directors has control over that.
And that's which counties are involved again? Pipestone,
Yep,
Rock, Nobles,
Jackson and Cottonwood.
Jackson, and Cottonwood, okay. So is it a joint powers?
It is not.
It is not, it's a 501c3. Does that joint or the nonprofit have any, anything like, I don't know, bylaws or anything like that? Okay. Do they have anything in there about what happens if counties come and go?
Yes, so there is a buyout agreement in regards to that. A county has to pay out an X amount in order to leave.
Payout for what?
In order to leave the agreement.
I mean, why would they have to pay to leave the agreement if there's reserves on hand?
I don't know the historical aspect of that. I do know that roughly 15 years ago, one county left and then came back. And then in 2006, I can certainly forward on to you, there is an agreement that counties that are part of it have to pay a certain percentage to leave part of the agreement.
And what is that?
I don't have the number right offhand.
Oh,
I can get
okay.
that to you.
I think it's based on per capita.
I can understand that to buy back in, but if we've got part of that equity, why in the world would we have to pay to leave when we've already built the equity in that organization? I can't.
That's what I'm trying
comprehend
to
that.
figure out.
Yep.
Could we get a copy of that stuff just to be able to look it over? On the proposed budget, I mean, obviously there's some significant increases in both revenue and expense proposed. Can you provide a little more detail on, I mean, obviously it's showing salaries going up significantly. I'm assuming that means you'd be hiring additional people.
Correct.
Where would they be working?
It would be all across all 5 counties.
And for the revenue portion, is that billable revenue or is that actual revenue you think you'll collect?
It's, well, technically both. It's billable revenue that we think we would collect with the percentage of what new hires and stuff would bring on versus through 12 months.
But I mean, based on your historical numbers that you gave earlier, about 20% of your billable you're not gonna get.
Right, yeah, so
That's figured in?
That's figured into that.
Okay,
correct.
so this is the portion that you think you'd collect?
That is correct.
Okay. And how realistic do you think it is to find these people?
The $1 million question, right? I mean, we have a full-time recruiter on staff that has been working diligently. We've certainly picked up on in regards to interviews. Truly, clinicians are very difficult to find across the nation, so it's not just us.
Right.
But it is very difficult.
When was the last time you had a new hire?
Clinician, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and before that?
Probably about a month, wasn't it?
Yeah, about a month, and then it was like 7 months before that. So it's
Okay, so you've had 3 in the last year roughly?
yeah,
How many have you lost in that time?
in a year from last year, probably 10.
So you
Probably
don't-
a wash
so
each way.
I would just denote, I mean, we're very different economically today than we were last year. We're going to the great resignation of 2021. When you're dipping back into that, you're blurring different things because you saw mass exodus across the board,
Right,
you know.
I'm just trying to figure out, are we even catching up or?
If you looked at
are we still
2022,
backwards from where you
yeah, if you look at
started?
2022 from January 1st onward, it's definitely a far by far positive trend in 22 versus in 21.
But I mean, are you back to where you were pre-COVID or?
Oh, no.
Close.
No, pre-COVID is what this would be. We need to hire 30 additional staff.
How many?
30.
30?
Yep.
Wow.
Luke, you had mentioned about how some of this had predated you. Refresh my memory, when was it that you did take over as director?
It would have been July of 2020.
2020. So as we look at some of the charts that you showed us here as far as what your revenue and expense was and so forth, so if we look at that 2020, and again, we can't hang that all on you because again, we know COVID had a large impact on that, but it is pretty significant.
But then, if you'd go back, it's about the time Avera opened up their new center, we lost a lot of help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we gotta compete with them for help too.
In Sioux Falls.
Right.
Yep.
It used to be, we had quite a few people coming from Sioux Falls, we don't have that anymore.
Now, I understand that budgeting going forward, that you've got an ask for a dollar amount that you feel you need from the counties to help sustain.
Correct. I mean, in regards to what our budget through Health and Human Services would be that contracted amount,
And that amount, again, was how much?
$1,050,000.
Okay, and did I hear you say you've got 4 million in reserve right now?
That's correct.
And again, I'll hit you one more time, and we've seen the erosion of our services here in the county.
Mhm.
Okay,
And our insurance pays out better than the counties, the other counties that aren't on
Yep.
Prime West.
Right.
another pertinent point.
I do have a question about this, Luke, and I'm assuming this is all 6 counties.
Yes.
And then, so what was received compared to what was invoiced? Are they mostly denied claims, or are they just paying at a lesser rate than what you're invoicing?
Right. They just paid a lesser rate.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, the classic thing is we see both sides of it with your a private consumer, but this on their side of it is if you say we submit a $200 bill to an insurance, they'll say, well, we'll pay $120 of it.
Okay.
That's,
So they're not keeping up, basically.
And there's not really a way for you to negotiate that higher since
That is
you're
correct.
too small to matter to them.
That is correct. And so, just to give you a fictitious example, if you have a psychiatrist who's making $250 an hour, and in this past year you get a contract that says, you know, we're raising it to $325, your insurance does not do anything. You can even tell them, hey, the service we're paying considerably more. Again, I'm just using some fictitious numbers. If we bill for a 20-minute session at a $200 rate and they pay at 120, we say, well, you know, this isn't that provider now costs this. Their response is, we will pay at the 120.
Right. Do the commercial payers pay more? Or not really?
Not really. I mean, if you look at even like Blue Cross Blue Shield and things, a lot of them do not.
Almost pay worse than MA.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. You get by with, or allow the providers to get by with paying only 80%. How about the people that have to pay a deductible, a $500 deductible? Do they get by with paying only 80% of that also?
Some individuals aren't able to pay their deductible. I mean, that's the thing is that most individuals, I'll just carry this as most, when we're talking today around $5,000 deductibles, most are either on a sliding fee scale or not able to pay that.
So you have a scale for that too, that ability to pay?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of if they're going to do maybe just, you know, $40 or $80 versus having to pay the full amount for the therapy session, we do. But a lot of individuals aren't able to even pay that.
I understand that. Which is why they don't call and they don't come in. And especially if they have to drive to Laverne.
Right.
Any other questions?
Let me review a couple items, make sure that I understand this correctly. So to continue this year, you're looking for an additional $1 million ask from the county to continue to be able to provide services that again aren't in the county. And over the years, we have contributed to your reserves of $4 million. In addition to that, we also lent you over $150,000 to build a facility in Worthington. But you're telling us that if we dissolve this contract, that we're gonna have to pay you to dissolve this contract? That we've got no equity? I cannot conceive that.
That is what our bylaw states.
So of the increase in the proposed budget, how much of that would be attributable to our county through Health and Human Services?
I'm not sure I understood that question. Would you say that again, please?
Well, I mean, it's showing here, apparently Health and Human Services currently gives 350 roughly, and it's proposed at over $1 million. I'm assuming that difference would be divided up amongst the counties involved. How much of that would be attributable to our county?
Without knowing specifically the breakout in service, in clients served in each, I would guess 50-50. Half and half.
I mean,
Half to Rock, half for Pipestone.
what about the other counties?
This is just Health and
Oh,
Human Services.
okay, so I see. So they would have their own contribution through one of these other Noble County or
And Des Moines Valley would each.
Des Moines
have their
Valley,
own.
okay. That's, I wasn't sure what the acronyms were.
I can tell you that we don't have an additional 700,000 budgeted for next year to find that.
I'm sure.
And if we had to, through Health and Human Services, what would be the impact of the levy, and that levy ask coming back to the counties?
It still comes back here.
Yeah, but the levy ask through Health and Human Services back to the county's levy, it would certainly impact our levy substantially.
I think that we say about $120,000 is a percentage.
Yep.
So it would be significant for each county.
And we, of course, through Health and Human Services, are seeing the same challenge that you've seen as far as labor cost and not only cost but availability. It's a problem for everyone. So yes, we are sympathetic to your plight, but you're not the only one in the same boat.
I understand that.
I guess I'd like to see the bylaws and see where we're at from there, I guess.
Can you have them for tomorrow night? I can
Oh, yeah. No.
pick them up then.
Yep.
Any other questions for?
Not yet.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Cindy and Stacy. You wanna take 5? Yeah. Okay, we'll recess for 10. Okay, we are reconvened. Next up is Myron.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I see you have me listed as the mayor. I'm not even here as mayor today, believe it or not.
Just a casual person, huh?
I'm just a casual, very casual.
I thought you were here in your official capacity.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go fishing here shortly. So, the reason why I'm here is that, and I know Luke and Dan have heard this presentation before, but the Friends of the Casey Jones Trail looked at how we're progressing on the Casey Jones Trail, and it's mandated by legislature. It's a trail that is essentially funded through bonding bills, which the legislative session didn't really produce one this year. Plus, it's a fairly expensive process because you have to acquire land before you put in the trail. Okay, having said that is one funding source. Even though I'm here as a friend of the Casey Jones Trail, what I'm really looking at is what we call a regional trail system. And the difference between a regional trail system and Casey Jones is that a regional trail system can use highway right-of-way. So if you kind of put your memory bank on the last time you drove up Highway 23, you got to the Camden State Park, and there's a trail that runs from Camden State Park to Marshall. That is that's a regional trail, and that was funded through legacy funding. And legacy funding is a small percentage of the sales tax that you pay is set aside. And there's a whole formula if you want to read the state statutes on it as to how this all works. Interestingly enough, that legacy or that additional sales tax money that goes into legacy is about to run out in 13 years, which isn't very far off. And so then the state or the citizens of the state will have to determine, whether they renew that again or not, which will be a ballot initiative. But having said all that, we were looking at how do we jumpstart, especially trails and bicycle trails, hiking trails in southwest Minnesota. And so a number of us been kind of visiting back and forth over probably the last 18 months to 2 years. And we keep looking at Highway 75 from Laverne to Pipestone somehow. And also what we're aiming at is the Sioux Falls market. We got 250,000 people over there. That city is growing by 5,000 to 7,000 people a year. All indications are it will continue to grow. And so there's a potential resource there that we could tap into and hopefully bring them up here for tourists. And as you know, if you're familiar with Sioux Falls, they have an extensive trail system around the Missouri River and the floodways and what have you. So there is a fairly significant biking group already, bicycle biking group in the Sioux Falls area. Also, the thing that's kind of happened in the last number of years are e-bikes, battery-operated bikes for older people like myself, and they've become quite popular. I know the mayor of Worthington, him and his wife bought a couple of e-bikes, and it really opened up a whole new activity for them to go biking on trails, because it's an assist. So when you're going uphill, you can use the battery. Going downhill, obviously, you don't have to. But having said all that, we feel that there's quite a potential for this trail. Coupled with that, the Southwest Regional Development Commission out of Slayton is going to get a grant, or has a grant, to develop a regional trail system in the 9 counties of southwest Minnesota. So it's kind of an opportune time if the county commissioners and the city of Pipestone, city of Laverne, and Rock County commissioners agree to this. It's kind of an opportune time because we can incorporate our efforts with the SRDC and come up with a feasibility. Now, this is a multi-step process, and the step that I'm really asking for today is to, I presented a resolution for you, is to accept that resolution. And basically, once I have resolutions from the city of Pipestone, Pipestone County Commissioners, Rock County Commissioners, and the city of Laverne, then I can go to the Legacy Fund and actually get a grant to start this steadying process. And I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, but the first one would be, what route would this actually take? Okay, when we say Pipestone Laverne, if we could just go up Highway 75, I know that, that would be the shortest route. Having said that, we need to go to places like Laverne, Edgerton, and say, do you want to be part of this? Okay, that's a 7-mile spur off of that. Same way with Trotsky, Hardwick, a number of those cities. Also, I know, less in your area, the Jasper people, or at least a small group of them, are really excited about getting that Jasper connected to that trail somehow. And then they were also talking, and this is what this first go-around really looks at. They were talking about the feasibility of following the creek or the river, whatever you want to call it, from Jasper to Island State Park and then back up to Pipestone somehow. I don't know if that's going to be the route or not, but that's what this first go-around of a grant request will be. Now, again, in full disclosure, it will, if we go through with the entire program and it's feasible, and if it's feasible, it will have to be somewhere down the road a financial commitment by the counties and the cities involved. And so I just want to be real clear on that. The DNR is kind of involved in this, but they're not. If we, as an example, built this trail, there's no reason, or the DNR has the option of either assuming responsibility for it or not assuming responsibility for it. If they don't, such as the one at Camden State Park, there the Lyon County has a recreation fund because they have some county parks and stuff. They actually use some of that money to maintain that trail, and that's to mow it periodically, so spray the weeds, what have you. With that, I would open it up for any questions.
Also make the point too that our fellow commissioner then from Lyon County, Rick Anderson, has been very involved in that trail and also with the legacy funds as well too. So it's multifaceted as Myron has said. Now, the resolution itself at this point is not any financial obligation just with the resolution at this point. But again, knowing that down the road, we're gonna have to step up to the plate here.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, you know, this process probably will take 2 to 3 years to really go from beginning to the, you know, to where the rubber hits the road. And we should have opportunities, and one of the additional requests that I have is that the county commissioners would designate a minimum of 1, possibly 2 people to actually help sit on this committee so that you're well aware of what obligations may be coming up. You know, so if it's still, at that point, the county commissioners and the city councils say, hey, this is what we really want to do, they can start putting that into the budgetary process.
I was just gonna mention that as we all know, we've already been involved with Casey Jones Trail. Both Chris and I sit on that board as well. And again, thank you, Myron, for your participation in that. And as we move forward, it's like pushing a rock uphill sometimes, but this, we can get a little more momentum out of this. It certainly would be helpful.
Chairman, would this be parallel to the Casey Jones or a part of the Casey Jones?
It wouldn't be technically part of the Casey Jones, because Casey Jones is a legislative mandated trail. It would be a regional trail that would connect to the Casey Jones Trail.
Did I hear that right? It can be in the easement of the highway? So you
Yeah,
don't have to-
in the highway ditch, yeah, in the right of way.
that would make it much more feasible for and amenable to the landowners. You know.
Yes, because a couple reasons. One, there wouldn't be acquisition of land cost.
Correct.
That which is huge. And then 2, yes, we would be going over driveway approaches and things like that. You know, so there would be some, you know, some, but really minimal intrusion upon the landowner.
Yeah, and if he mows his ditch, it would take off a swath of mowing the ditch. They would
Right.
probably go along with that. Do you see this being paved?
Yes.
Okay. How about snowmobilers? Can they use it?
Right now,
or not?
the Lyon County does not allow snowmobilers on their trail, so they can ride next to it, but they don't want them on the trail. And that's primarily because some of the tracks still have studding, and which is really hard on asphalt.
Yeah. So the snowmobiles are not allowed on Casey Jones either, right?
No. No, well, they are, because they got the horse trail beside it. And so if they go on the horse, where the horse trail is, then they can have snowmobiles on it.
But not on the trail itself.
But not on the trail itself, no. Because, and if I understand right, like the Casey Jones Trail, there's no motorized traffic allowed, period.
That's correct.
Does that allow electric bikes?
It does allow electric bikes.
Lucky.
Ironically, when the DNR commissioner came down, they drove SUVs on the trail.
Yeah, I know. I think that was the same commissioner that said all we had out here was rocks and cows or something like that.
In Lyon County's case with the regional trail, are they then responsible for the future maintenance of the pavement as well?
Yes, yeah. So and this is a big thing. The the DNR actually gets half of the legacy money, but by state statute that's mandated that they use it for maintenance of state parks and state trails. You know, so right now they're pretty well tapped out.
So that explains why they don't maintain ours very well?
That is correct. Yeah, in fact, the first section of the Casey Jones Trail needs to be overlaid again, because if you're out there, there's some pretty good sized badger holes and things
Right.
like that.
Are they still planning to do the trail to Woodstock this year yet?
Yes, well, no, because that was gonna be part of the bonding bill.
Right, yep, we lost that. You know, we got the grading done.
Right.
but we ran out of funds to do that last part for paving, so was waiting for this last bonding bill. So yeah, it's all on hold again.
Okay, I thought that it maybe already been approved, but
Yeah, it has been approved, and the funding of that is, be honest with you, Luke, I'm really sketchy how that all,
Yep.
how that all works, where it is, because it all has to go through DNR. You know, so DNR may have gotten a block of funding, whether Casey Jones was part of that, I don't know.
I thought they had mentioned that they had the funds for that.
Yeah.
but-
Deb Nelson certainly would be the resource for that. She is very, very up to date on all those, but basically it's been, you know, it's the bonding bill, next year's bonding. Oh yeah, you're topping the list. Then come to the 12th hour and, oh, well, we had to make some cuts, so sorry. You can apply again next year. I mean, it's been so frustrating going on and on. So that's why, you know, looking at this as a bigger picture instead of just Casey Jones. And again, my understanding is the original concept was for Casey Jones to be a connecting link for this Sioux Falls to Laverne to here. That's all part of the grand
Yep.
plan.
Yeah, and you talk about linking, this year DNR had a big celebration because you can now go from Fargo Moorhead to St. Cloud for sure, I think actually the Twin Cities, and on a bicycle trail. It kind of zigzags around all through the lake country, but that's the kind of linkage that they're looking at. Looking at it from a, you know, kind of a visionary standpoint, from a tourism standpoint, if we could ever get connected to Sioux Falls and then get the Casey Jones Trail to Redwood Falls, we would see a lot of bike traffic in this area. And the people that ride bikes, I've run across a couple of groups. Boy, do they spend money when they go too.
That's one of the perceptions that we need to overcome, is that this is just frivolous. No, there's so many aspects of trails that are good for the community, whether it be just, you know, the health, the physical health of people, and of course the social part of it. But yes, economic development, people bringing people into it. It really is good. So you need to dispel that idea that, well, no, it's not a highway, we don't need to spend money on it. It is important. So I see that Nick made it back. He was down checking our bridge. You want to come join us, Nick, too?
And I could tell for Dallas's standpoint, and last, I know that the other two commissioners heard this story many times before, but we started out with a trail. It was actually from the KOA campground at that time to Good Sam. And when that road was being rebuilt about 35 years ago, the highway engineer, or the county engineer, had put a walkway on the side of the road, essentially a wide shoulder. And so we looked at it and said, gee, why don't we, you know, lobbied with the county commissioners at that time and the county engineer to actually put that in the ditch. And that's how it got there. And it was really kind of funny because when we finished that when the county finished that project, we all sat back and looked at it and said, wow, we need to continue this around the national monument. We need to do this and do that. And I think it's a good story from the standpoint that governments a lot of times were accused of acting very quickly, but in that particular case, it only took us 35 years.
And Dave Halbersma was a strong proponent, obviously, and we appreciate the work he did with that. And now you see what we got today with that Indian Lakes Trail. That is terrific.
Yeah.
And the hope of being able to take and join that also back to Casey Jones. That's another part of that link, getting it all tied in together.
Yeah.
So.
And also another little link that we're working on, and I'm not sure how this is all going to turn out, but the National Monument wants to have a link from Hiawatha Avenue, a trail system to the quarry line trail. And so that's going to connect in there someplace.
Yep.
We've offered the city park, the Hiawatha Pageant Park, to run a trail through there. That gets into a lot of intergovernmental play, but that's in the works. And eventually there will be a trail there that will connect into it. So the connections sometimes are the hardest, but they also are really valuable.
Through that Playmore Curve area.
Yeah,
to get
well,
excited.
that's another one. But they're actually talking, on the monument side, which will not allow bikes, but a walking trail that would connect into the quarry line trail.
Any other questions?
You know, for the regional trail, what type of commitment would the counties have and cities, if they decided to go forward with that?
If we get to the point where say, hey, we really want this and construct it, there's gonna be a percentage of the total amount of the cost have to be absorbed by the cities and counties. That in talking to the mayor of Marshall, when they put that trail in, there was an in-kind contribution. They actually had city employees on equipment out, with a bulldozer cutting through on the ditch and actually into the state park to construct that trail. So that's kind of an in-kind contribution. If you can't do in-kind, obviously there's going to be a financial. The exact amount, Luke, at this point, I have no idea.
I would imagine that would vary. Whatever a normal one is now, I could see that being different, in a couple of years, so.
But it's nice to know that the in-kind is an option, because that would be easier than a cash contribution.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you just had some of your staff go help
Correct.
blaze the trail, so to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chair, to show our support of this, and we do have a resolution in front of us, I would like to move that we do pass this resolution 593222 in support of the Laverne to Pipestone Trail.
I'll support that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate it, fellow commissioners. I look forward to working with you in the future over the next 2 or 3 years on this project, so, thank you.
Thank you. Now go catch some fish.
In the summertime, I'm not sure where you're gonna catch fish. Yeah, I am going to black duck.
Well, we're a little ahead of schedule, but Casey? Good. Chair is all warmed up.
I know. Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thanks for
Morning.
having me. So I sent this information to Steve, and thank you for getting me on the agenda quick. We just recently had our EMSRB inspection. It's been a number of years since they've been coming out to the outer states or outer regions of the state and inspected the ambulance services and whatnot. But Danielle has been working incredibly hard the past few months on getting an education program built up so we can do our own in-house education and kind of help people more. The last, I don't know how many years, Steve, do you remember the last year that we actually had an EMT class that was in person that our people went to?
Maybe 14 or 15, somewhere in
Yeah,
there. And that
I would
about
say at least that.
7
They're all,
years ago.
they all tend to be blended now with the didactic portion is online and then they just do skills. Sometimes it's one evening a week, sometimes it's once a month, depending on what the program is and who it's through. But particularly in EMS, we find that people learn the best hands-on. And actually going through scenarios and lecture in person versus death by PowerPoint online on a computer screen. So we've worked really hard on this, and we have a couple of our people that are enrolled already, and then it's open for enrollment to outside agencies. And I know some of the surrounding ambulance agencies and whatnot have really expressed interest in sending some of their people, so we expect a few more. We're hoping this initial pilot class this fall is relatively small, just to kind of iron out any kinks and whatnot. But we're excited about getting it going. Holly from the EMSRB gave us her blessing, and our education program is approved, and we have an approval number with the state for that. It's just basically kind of another certification like we keep up with our ambulance licenses every 2 years. But with that, we plan on doing initial EMT and EMR, which was formerly known as first responder courses, as well as refreshers for both. And as with everything else, we have set a fee, which you should have in front of you, I believe. And these fees that we set were based on basically kind of doing our research for any of the local other kind of competitive EMT and EMR programs. We tried to stay in the ballpark of there and be inclusive of, you know, things like the book costs and stuff. And I mean, we want to be right in there with them, but yet remain kind of competitive, and I feel that we'll be offering an excellent education. So with that, I'm requesting this to be set for our fees to be added to the county fee schedule.
Do your own staff do that, or they the trainers?
We will be doing, yep. Cole and Danielle both took the required DOT instructor course a couple years ago, and they can be the primary instructors, and then pretty much anybody else who's qualified can be adjunct instructors under them.
Okay.
So it's something we all can pitch in, and it'll help us all keep up on our knowledge and the most latest up-to-date information and whatnot coming out in EMS as well.
Great.
Is there any possibility for any financial aid for this fee going forward? Does the association, does the ambulance association have any funds that they could use to help give grants for this training?
For students?
For students.
Actually, the EMSRB, I believe they're raising it from $600 to $900 if they haven't already done that, to reimburse back to students in Minnesota who take the EMT course. And Southwest EMS Corporation, Ann Jensen is the director of that. They will reimburse the remaining cost. So any students in Southwest Minnesota in particular can get it completely reimbursed.
That's very encouraging because obviously you don't want to have financial burdens limit somebody's
Correct.
ability to expand their knowledge base. So that's
Yes.
terrific.
And I mean, we did state in there too, we have some signed some contracts available to do payment plans to work with people as well. Because we know not everybody has, you know, an extra $1,000 laying around.
Yep.
But I mean, we'd be happy to work with people.
That is terrific. Do we need specific, this is marked as an action item, isn't it?
Right,
So, okay. Then, Mr. Chair, I'd be more than happy to make the motion that we approve this request from EMS then to establish this county fee schedule for EMS SRB training.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Can you make sure that Edgerton gets involved with
Yep.
this?
They already know. They've been sharing it on Facebook as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
More people that have EMS training, the better.
Absolutely.
Or EMR training, or EMT, or whatever.
We've got a beautiful facility to do it in.
Yeah.
And we lost Nick again.
Mr. Chairman, we've got some other items on the back. We can take those under consideration, unless you need Nick back for something right now.
And he just walked in.
Well, go ahead with the personnel, if
Okay.
there is anything.
Yep, we've got two quick personnel items. Two potential jailer dispatchers. One is a female. She will be offered the starting salary at step 1, and she will be able to start on August 15th. Won't go out the names at this point, but we got one there. And then got a message from Kathy today. She has an experienced male that is still considering the job. She says he needs a couple days or two just to think it through. Request is to hire that male at step E on the pay plan because of his extensive experience in actual jail and corrections officer duties. So request a motion to accept the for the male corrections officer at step E.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And those were the two personnel items she had on that. The other item I have is county credit card. You have that in your packet. Request a motion to approve credit card for County Recorder Emily Rippentrop. As a department head, credit issue limit is the same for all employees at $1,500. And you have the application in front of her. So it'd be an employee credit card for County Recorder Emily Rippentrop.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next item with that I have the County Veteran Service Operational Grant application requested from VSO Officer Renee Shuck. This is for her to obtain the working grant that same one we did last year. It's a $750 grant that she uses for services, equipment, and such as to maintain the operations of her department and assist veterans with their needs. So recommendation would be to approve resolution 593122.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll support it.
It's only $750.
I'll check the dollar amount, just go ahead and approve it. That's, we still need to have it, so otherwise she won't get any money, so.
Resolution, you know, just the same.
A little light.
I don't know, it's,
Like $7,000 maybe?
maybe it's 7,500,
That's what I was thinking.
75,000 maybe?
no, it's not.
Keep going up.
Probably not.
I'll check the budget sheets on it, I'll let you know for sure.
Okay.
At any rate, please go ahead and approve it so we can get the grant application in.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move back to Nick.
Okay. No, we're not done yet, Mr. Chairman. Not ready for your budget yet. At this, my add-on items, you'll need to appoint 2 commissioners to Joint Ditch 21, Joint Ditch 7 in Murray County. Commissioner Johnson, talked to him, he is in agreement, he would be willing to serve, as is in both those ditches are in his district. And Murray County is requesting another commissioner to be on that committee as well.
Murray County borders mine, so
Yep.
That would be great if you'd be willing to do
Dallas?
that. You looking for action on that?
Yes,
If so,
please.
I will move that we appoint both Luke and Dallas to those 2 ditch commissions.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, I will get the information to Mr. Radke over at Murray County, and then he will put together a resolution that I'll bring back at a future meeting for the Joint Ditch 721 group. And last one, I had the write-in, we talked about it earlier, appointing 2 commissioners to the primary election canvassing board, which will meet Thursday morning at 10 a.m. in the commissioners' room. Auditor Treasurer Amanda Sandy is requesting 2 commissioners be appointed to that. And I think we had already talked about Commissioner Dallas and Luke had agreed to serve on that. So if I could get a motion to that effect would be great.
So
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The only thing else I've got is committee reports.
We'll see how it works out. Okay, Nick.
no.
What's that?
No.
All right. I'll start by just kind of briefly going through my budget narrative, and then hopefully I have all my notes to answer any questions you have. My 2023 budget, the local levy impact, I'm proposing is $1,716,411. That represents a 9.3% increase over 2022. That budget proposal includes $200,000 for a new roof on the shop. If that wasn't included, we would have a 3.4% decrease. The point of me pointing that out is just to show that our normal expenses are actually down a little bit. For like our equipment operation, it's the roof that's getting us on that one. My budget also includes the $220,000 again from that old hospital loan. Some of the big ticket items I'm budgeting for here would be $200,000 for the new roof on the shop and office, $300,000 for a motor grader, a third of another motor grader in 2024, $100,000 on that, a pickup, and then a culvert clean out attachment for our backhoe. One thing I'd like to throw out there is that $100,000 for a third of a motor grader in 2024. Talking with the sheriff's office a while ago, sounds like they would like some type of shop, or I don't know what you want to call it, building for like working on some of their cars. And I said, oh, instead of buying something, maybe said we'd like another 2 stalls, I think, at our place, you know, for the new sign truck, which is a little bit bigger, and we got some other stuff that really help out for mainly in the wintertime. So I said, well, maybe we should look at doing something together so you don't have to buy anything, because we have the room, you know, and I'd be fine with you just, you know, adding on with us out there. We do something together. I think it'd be cheapest to do it that way. So if that's something that they really wanted to get done in 23, I would say that we just use that $100,000 for that motor grader in 24, and, you know, do our, you know, so I might want to switch it from a motor grader to that structure if they really want to get that done in that time frame. So some things I'm not budgeting for but are have been brought up would be a lawnmower, a skid steer mill, another skid steer. I didn't budget anything to reconstruct some of our gravel roads, and I didn't budget anything for overlays on county roads, straight county roads. You know, I'm not talking state aid roads, but we have a couple that are funded strictly by county funds. Some other expenses I see coming up would be, I touched briefly on them this morning, but a heating system for our shop, and then probably some sheeting on the walls, which I wouldn't be surprised if that led to insulation as well. You know, we might need to pull some sheeting off to get a good look at that, but I just feel like on a building that old, it's probably going to need that as well, since when everything's opened up. But, I didn't budget anything to increase reserves. And this budget includes the continued sharing of our sign tech with the environmental office. And then I added a little chart at the bottom to kind of show what the costs have been over the years for our maintenance on our county roads. Outside of that, I guess that's my brief overview. Are there any specific questions I could?
I'm sure I can find if I look through here as well. You talk about maintenance on the road. The field tile, or the drainage tile you've been putting in along the roads, you're going to continue with that as well too?
So that project hasn't started yet. I don't know if I'm going to do any next year. I'd really like to see how this turns out first, and be able to comfortably say that, yes, we really feel like that made a huge improvement. Maybe we'll know enough first thing in the spring, like, oh yeah, this is the real deal. We want to do this, but we're funding that with wheelage tax, and we could continue to fund that with wheelage tax. So I don't think I'd need to put anything in my levy for that. You know, we could if you want me to, but that's my plan for right now. If we feel that that's worth the money, we would just continue to use wheelage tax on that.
And if you'd allow me just to think out loud, and it is thinking out loud, if we're to continue on that, that's gonna be because we got a lot of miles that we could actually use tiling on.
Yep.
Does it, it makes sense at all to even look at maybe owning our own trencher. I know that gets into another whole thing as far as just the capital investment, the maintenance, the labor. I don't know, but as you look at the contracts going forward, just kind of put that in the back of your mind that if that would be something that'd be good to do. Could very well be that we can't afford to do it ourselves. It's probably cheaper to contract it out. But
So a couple of thoughts come to mind when I hear that, and I haven't thought this through, so I'm kind of thinking out loud too, but we have a dozer, but I don't know if it's big enough to pull a tile plow.
oh, I thought more of a trencher instead of a plow.
Oh, like a standalone unit?
Yeah,
I have no idea what they cost.
yeah.
You'd be scared.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
And I do know firsthand that they're a high maintenance thing. They really are.
Yeah. I don't know if we'd use it enough to make it worthwhile, but or who knows, maybe we just kind of dedicate a couple of years to doing that and we get them tiled and we'd sell it then, I don't know. But
So the ones that you're looking at putting in the roads now, that's gonna be plowed in instead of trenched in. I guess I didn't realize that.
yes, yep, that'd be plowed in.
Okay.
This time, I know some people have like the tiling attachments. I think when I talked to Johnson Ditching last time, they didn't submit a bid this year, but if I remember right, I think they're going to submit 2 bids, one for plowed, one for trenched. I'm sure the trench would have cost more, but that would have probably had I think that would have had a P-rock backfill, which might have, I'm guessing probably would have turned out a little bit better, but I don't know.
Johnson out of down there.
Lake Wilson, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was one down in the Steen area or.
Oh no, the one I talked to was from Lake Wilson. I'm sure they would have did good work too. I think they're pretty respectable crew around here. So, so as far as plowing goes, I mean, this is a lot of. I thought this through in my head a while ago. We have a lot of topsoil and dirt that needs to get moved in our pit to strip for gravel. And I thought, well, if we had a large 4-wheel drive tractor with a pull-behind scraper, we could maybe do a lot of that work ourselves. Just pick it up on top, put it on the pit floor, and then be renting that out as farm ground again right away. I think Murray County just got a quad track, I believe. I think I would suspect they plan on putting a blade on the front of that for moving snow in the wintertime. That's something we could do with the quad track, and then we could put a tile plow on it. But I mean, once again, we're talking by the time you buy a plow and a tractor, and if we did the scraper thing.
Well, and plowing on the shoulder of the roads, you always hit huge boulders. I mean, it's a mess. I've been there.
It'd be incredibly expensive for us to buy all that equipment. Not saying it wouldn't be worth it, but I think probably one of my bigger things is, you don't really have the manpower to.
Skilled operator, right?
Yeah, like all that stuff. It's like, well.
It takes away from other things.
Yeah, because we don't have that large of a workforce, So, I put a little thought into that, but I don't know.
Contracting, probably the better way to go.
It costs a lot to do that too, but I don't know. We can look at that, certainly if you want, but
Well, then you
kind
have
of
to
let that
also
one
look
go.
at all of the liability exposure with underground utilities, that if we were doing it ourselves, that's huge too.
Yeah, and I don't know, with an excavator we can dig it too, but
Let's see how this works first.
You bet.
yeah, right. That's probably the best way to say it. Like, let's see what we get out of this before we decide to move on.
I remember a number of years ago, it's quite a few years ago, they went out and augured holes in the road.
Yep.
And put P-rock in to drain them.
I get multiple calls on that every year still. It's an article on the website somewhere, and people call. I think I had someone from Montana call about it once, and I'm pretty sure I had someone from Canada call once. So, I mean, they're...
And how did it work?
It works. It takes a lot of time. I'm not sure that it's much better than just digging out the soft material and replacing it with suitable material. So, but it works if you're willing to put the time into it.
It sounded like a simple fix at the time.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad idea by any means. It's just it's a lot of labor, and then you're dealing with muck all the time. So you drill a little bit, and then you got to pull that out and kind of peel the muck out of the bit, but I mean, it works, but. And maybe we'll find out that those spots never come back versus the ones where we dig the soft material out and replace it. Maybe they're back in 5-10 years, you know, and we got to do them again. So maybe it is better with the boreholes. We'll see, but
Basically, you're drilling a well though,
kind of, yeah.
so the water comes right up.
Yeah. Yep.
So you'll know a lot more on your shop expenses after today, apparently. To say they were coming today.
Oh, they're doing the inspection today.
Right.
I don't know on a timeline on getting the final report back, but I think it'll be like a structural engineer who's familiar with all this stuff. You know, I had a few of those classes in school, but I did not like structures, so I took minimal possible, and I don't know enough about that stuff to be able to make a recommendation. You know, I could follow a report just fine, but you know, as far as making a call on that, like I don't know, that's a lot of money we're dealing with, so we need someone who's really familiar with that to give us a good, solid, accurate assessment.
I appreciate your approach to it, and also knowing that, you know, we haven't put a lot of money in that building for a lot of years.
Yeah, it's just too big of an investment to just start winging it. So like,
I really do like the idea of maintaining what we've got, and hopefully we can do that, because I guess what comes to mind is one of our neighbors to the east just spent a whole lot of money on a new building, a whole lot of money.
yeah,
Except they didn't get their bonding.
They haven't started it yet.
They haven't started it.
That's still on the dream list.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, they got the land there, but
Yeah.
that's about it. And I don't know.
But we're established here, it works well for us, so if
We
we
have-
can
yes.
improve and enhance what we've got, that certainly is a more fiscally responsible way of doing it.
Yep, we've got a nice lot there with you know, a lot of room, and you know, like I was just talking about that building addition. You know, we're fortunate enough to have the ability to add a little bit on for us and for the sheriff, and not have to buy any land anywhere. So yeah, it's a nice lot, and yep, I just want to make sure we do it right. You know what we need to do. So
Do it once and have it over with.
yep, hopefully good for another 50 years then. So.
Mr. Chairman, for my information, third paragraph, what is that all about? An old hospital loan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
An old loan from the hospital. We had some debt incurred when we built the new hospital, and that debt's being retired now. So the concept is that we'll take that same amount of money that we were paying for that debt service and then roll it into highway department.
Okay,
And we will in turn use that money to,
so this is money coming in, not going out.
Right.
It's all in the levy already.
so I'm budgeting that same amount in my levy, and that will come into road and bridge, and then we will use that to supplement our state aid allotment, because our needs are higher than what we're getting for money from the state. So it was a way to, I guess, keep the overall levy, you know, somewhat similar, but to make up for the shortfall for road and bridge. And it's possible that once we get past this next wave of overlays, maybe we'll find out, depending on what we want for improvements, maybe we won't even need to do that anymore.
But yeah, for the highway department, it's revenue coming in, it's not expense for them.
Yeah.
I was wondering why they were paying for the hospital.
That'd be nice.
Oh, sure. I probably
Thought
could
it
have
was
worded
going
that a
the
little
other way.
different.
No,
Yeah.
revenue source.
Yeah. And we'll, I think we'll likely use that for some of our overlays, so we can show that, like, instead of supplementing a large project, you know, we'll just chip off some of the smaller ones with that and just say, like, yep, this is what we're getting done with that. So
Can you shed some light for me, you know, what you always hear on the national level about, you know, monies for roads and infrastructure buildup and so forth? That all has to go through the state. If the federal actually does invest back in our roads and bridges, it's not gonna come directly to us, it's gonna come through the state.
yeah, I probably don't know much more than you do about that then, maybe less even, but, so just saying that here's what it's for, I guess the state still has to do something for us to even get it. or be able to apply for it. So it's far more complicated process than I thought it was. You know, in a perfect world, they would just say, okay, well, here's what Minnesota gets, and we'll just divide it up with the normal state aid formula and just say, you know, here's everybody's piece of the pie. But I doubt it's going to work that easy, but that would be the best way to do it, in my opinion.
And already in your 5-year plan, you've already got targeted bridge work and so forth. So we're already in a position to be able to utilize that if indeed we get it.
Yep, we have a plan. You know, every year's got all kinds of work, so you know, it's board approved, so you know we can say, well, this has been in the works for a while now. We're not just dreaming this up overnight, you know. So
We're in a lot better position in some counties.
Oh, yeah.
With
Yeah.
our bridges.
yep, and our 5-year plan is getting a lot better too. I think last year I want to say we were like 7 million upside down by the end of the 5-year plan. You know, with what we felt are our current needs, with what our current allotment was, and I think, you know, it's less than half of that this year. So I really like the trajectory we're on. So things change, but you know, we'll see what fuel prices do to our overlay costs. But you know, if that comes down, you know, like that'll help a lot too.
Now, a year or 2 years ago, we had that one bridge that we had to move up because the buses couldn't use it and so forth. So that kind of got out of the rotation. Are we caught back up on that now?
For posted bridges,
Yeah.
there's another contract going on right now. SHV contracts, I think they're on number 8 now. I think it stands for special hauler vehicle or something weird like that. We'll just get an email one day saying, yeah, we completed the review on this bridge and it's posted. So then that kind of throws everything. It can turn everything upside down in our 5-year plan, like depending what kind of road it's on. If it's on a low traffic gravel road, sure, maybe it can wait a while, go into 5-year plan. But for example, when the one came up on County Road 18, it like eliminated a lot of semi traffic. And like, wow, we can't have that. That's got to go way up the list. Or the one that I think you're referring to is on County Road 3, just off of 18. You know, technically we weren't even supposed to run a snowplow over it. It got rated that poorly.
That was right on the Murray County line, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was like a quarter mile from Murray County or something. I think they might have even ran their plow truck up there a couple times, you know, which would have been essentially nothing for them. But I mean, otherwise, technically, what were we supposed to do? You know, it was a big deal for us. So that was really nice of them. But you know, so I guess as far as those ratings go, we don't get much warning on them. We know which ones they're looking at, but we don't know if they're going to get posted. They'll just, when they get their review done, they send it to us and just say, you know, this is posted. You gotta have, you know, it's gotta be posted within 30 days or whatever. So, so we don't get much warning on them. So those can certainly slide around the list quite a bit. Yeah.
Part of the issue with that is nobody has a straight truck anymore. Everybody has a semi. You know, for feed in or feed out or hauling to town. The small bridge on a township road is endangered.
But it's nice to have shovel-ready projects, should there be money available.
Yeah, we do what we can with that, but
First, you have to buy new shovels.
we've been probably falling behind on our design work the last year or so because we've done so much construction. It's just hard to find time to get out and do the surveys. So, but I think this has been a really super busy year. Next year is looking like quite a bit less. So hopefully we get back into that, get stuff on the shelf stage. So.
Anything else for Nick?
Not all in regards to budget. gun club, have you heard seen any activity up there, or where are we at with that? Or where are they at with that, I should say, not us, we're out of it.
I don't know, but that is all official and, okay, so we should move our stuff out of there then, you're saying? Okay, I didn't want to spend any time doing that until I knew it was gonna go through, cause I'd hate
It's all
to
done.
move it and
All
then,
done, it's theirs. Papers are signed.
okay,
That old cast iron bridge that we talked about before, I know that, again, the trails group still might need it someday, so let's not cut it up for scrap, so.
oh, okay, so just
If
store
we
that
could-
somewhere out of the way, you're saying?
Yeah, and maybe the gun club would leave a light there too, I don't know if they would need it off of their property or
If we're working in there, getting all that other stuff out of there, we can just,
drag it.
yeah. The only other thing I really see, you know, we can store the culverts, but, we can store the culverts in our gravel pit, but, you know, the biggest loss for us is probably the stumps, like tree stumps, so, I don't really know what we're gonna do with that yet, you know, we could
And I
maybe,
can't imagine that this group is gonna be in that big a hurry to get everything out of there. It doesn't hurt them where it's at, I would assume, or depends on what their plan is.
well, I'm not talking the older tree stumps, I'm just talking any new ones we have.
Oh,
going
coming in.
forward.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd leave the old ones
Yeah.
where they're at, you know, most of them are buried anyway, but, going forward, you know, we'd have to figure out what we're going to do with those, so. We could, you know, burn what we can, but I don't think
I was
they,
just gonna say, it's awful tough to burn a tree stump.
it is, you can burn them down, I've burned them down at my place some,
Yeah,
you know, and then, I don't know, maybe we haul the rest away at some point, I don't know, but we'll see. It's nice to get that gun club project going now,
yeah,
so.
would.
Any other questions for Nick?
All right, well, if something comes up later, as always, feel free to reach out, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, have a good day.
Okay, Emily's not gonna be here until 11:30. You have anything else, Steve?
You can do committee reports if you want to. You got those to do, if you wanna get those out of the way.
Wanna start, Lou?
Sure. On July 13th, at District 8 Land Use, had quite a bit of discussion about the carbon pipeline. I think the PUC now is looking at potentially permitting or not that project.
Did you see over in South Dakota, there's some litigation going on with landowners over there at this Carbon Solutions pipeline thing? What a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'd get too excited about it if it were my property, but, and then they'd even asked Lyon County for a 50-acre laydown site. I don't know what exactly they'd need.
Carbon Solutions did?
Yeah,
Wow. Kind of getting in front of their skis a little bit, aren't they?
I'm thinking that, but, yeah. Let's see, on the 14th, Soil and Water met, they scheduled a field day for tomorrow at Chandler Feed in Edgerton. Anyone available to check that out?
In the basement, right?
Yep. And on the 15th, AMC board met. We met the 3 summer graduate school interns that are working with Jill Surmeyer on their research projects. One of them's doing Joint Powers Agreement best practices, one on cybersecurity, and one on roadside ditch mowing. Then on the 26th, the hospital board met. 27th, Highway 23 Coalition. We settled on a job description for the administrator that they're looking to find. I think they're just gonna try to find somebody that they know to fill the position because it's pretty limited hours and whatnot. On the 28th, Prime Health met, and so far, utilization this year is looking good again, and obviously are reflected in our new rates, which average less than a 5% increase for singles and 3.6% increase for family, so that's pretty good compared to what most plans are seeing. On the first, the solid waste committee met and we decided to keep the solid waste assessment fee the same for now. On the third, I went to Farm Fest and watched the governor candidates debate, and that was pretty interesting. And then listened to some congressional updates on waters of the U.S. in particular. The current administration is pushing for going back to how it was under Obama and whatnot, where they want to control every low spot in your field, and it'd be horrible if it got pushed through. Of course, it's also going to be there's a court case coming up, Sackett versus EPA. It's supposed to be the first case heard by the Supreme Court in October. That hopefully that'll put it to rest, depending on what they do. And the fourth, Area 2 in our CRCA met. The dredge project now is over half done and seems to be going pretty good. And apparently they got the commitment to use the dredge somewhere else next year, so they're going 7 days a week now to try to make sure they finish.
I heard something about because of the high cost of diesel fuel that they're having problems up there, or concerns.
Well, they didn't contract their fuel, which to me is their fault.
So
They had
they're
asked
coming
for-
back wanting more.
Oh, they had asked for that, but I, told them, and I will keep telling them that no, they shouldn't get more because they're under contract. They should fulfill the contract and, be glad they're working. On the 8th, yesterday, AMC Research Committee met and we heard presentations from those 3 summer interns. And they all seem to be doing a great job, and they're supposed to be sending out some materials that we'll all be able to see coming up, so it'll be interesting to. But it was funny that all 3 of them, they kind of fought over, they wanted to have the project on roadside ditch mowing for whatever reason, and then I think once they got into it and they found out, wow, there's a lot more to that than they realized. Then maybe they wouldn't have wanted it. But no, they did a really nice job of outlining the issues, and like I say, we'll get some handouts coming up to show what their work amounted to. But it's it's good to see some people that are potential county employees down the line. That's why they got these interns in the first place, is just to kind of expose them to county government and what all is involved in at least some aspects of it. And it's a good deal. So of course I threw in the chat that, counties will be hiring, so keep us in mind.
When I was 16, I went to work for Minnehaha County mowing ditches, so.
Look what that done.
Look at that done.
That's all I have.
Okay, Dallas.
Yes, July 12th, the regular meeting, July 18th with Fair Board. We're finalizing fair stuff. Anybody see the Justice van that was there? That was kind of a late addition to it. I stopped and talked to the 2 ladies that were running the table. They were manning the